This is 10 pages packed with goodies, so let's not waste any time unpacking the first issue of Batman The Adventures Continue. Well, the first third of the first issue. It was advertised as 32 pages. We got 20 half pages, so 10 full pages. I'm guessing this is going to be 3 parts, so the 6 issues will become 18 issues. This is just going to be the same stupid numbering system as the Earth 12 comics, or the Gods and Monsters comics, or Scooby-Doo Team Up. Praise digital media, right? In this video, I'm going to be pointing out Easter eggs, timeline clues, and other general points of interest. So stick around for that. And I'm going to be going by Comixology page numbers, so if you want to follow along, that's how to do it. Okay, so first thing, page 3, because page 1 was the cover and page 2 was the credits. We get a pretty nice splash-ish thing of Batman in all his new Batman Adventures glory. It's so cool to return to this world and... Wait, what happened to the red sky? It was always red in this cartoon, very distinctly. Maybe that all nights this clear thing means that usual red is smog or storms? Are you really surprised I'm getting hung up on this? Here's Bane, who's also looking just like his TNBA self. No turtlenecks or watches with at least 3 buttons here. Yeah, in the novel Wings of War, based on the Justice League animated series, Bane is noted to have a turtleneck, a skull mask, a chest holster, and a watch that's noted to have 3 or more buttons on it. Don't ask me. Ask Michael Jan Friedman. In the background, we see a billboard with a peculiar scrawl across it. What does that say? Subscribe to Watchtower Database? Tough to tell. Hopefully this will come up later in the series so we can get a better look at it. But next to it, there's also a billboard advertising the Iceberg Lounge. How did their marketing director get a hold of the official Penguin turnaround from the new Batman Adventures? It's honestly impressive. Penguin owned and operated the Iceberg Lounge during TNBA, but by the time of the Justice League cartoon, we saw nary a glimpse of the place during Batman's simultaneous adventures in his DCAU solo comic, as Penguin was now the mayor of Gotham City. We know the lounge continued to at least operate through some of JLU though, with Penguin-less glimpses of the back storage room in the Batman and Harley Quinn prequel comic and the front entrance in This Little Piggy. So since we aren't seeing mayor-related Penguin billboards at this time, I'd wager this is another clue that this comic takes place before Justice League. Bane's "I will break you" is of course right out of Nightfall, the early 90s Batman story where Bane famously broke Batman's back. This isn't the first time the DCAU team has used this line. It was actually something Bane shouted while holding Batman above his head in the character's first appearance, the episode Bane of Batman the Animated Series. And both times, it didn't work. Batman was not braked. The robot on page 6 has a pretty Zeta-looking design influence, with maybe just a pinch of deep freeze Grant Walker Castle in the Skybot, and those boxy boys that show up in the 1940s Fleischer Superman cartoon. After the robot kicks away a police car, which knocks Batman's lower legs clean off, we get a look at the car's occupants. A very BTAS designed Harvey Bullock, and some other police officer. Considering we've already seen artwork from upcoming issues of this comic that show Commissioner Gordon in his new Batman Adventures design, it's interesting they chose to use Bullock's model from the earlier cartoon. We've also seen this artistic choice with an upcoming panel of Mad Hatter, and I ain't gonna question Ty the Master Templeton. He's lived with these characters since I was a year old, so if he wants to pull a Batsuit change cause wanna draw it that way with the other characters, I'm cool with it. Is this other policeman someone I should know? I don't think I recognize him. Ted looked through basically every DCAU comic and episode that has police in it, and he told me he had to stop because his eyes look like this now. And is Bullock cussing? Not my DCAU. Not Ken. Wait, there's been censored cussing in the DCAU tie-ins before. It's almost like this is how the DCAU has been for a long time. Page 8, we can clearly tell this mysterious figure is Jason Todd. The way the shadow falls across his face, it almost looks like a domino mask typical of the Robin costume. While it's not impossible this is the case, we've seen his action figure without the red hood helmet, and there's no domino mask. So my guess is the shadow shape is a bit of a red herring for Jason's origin, but we'll come back to that soon.
Batman will return after these messages on Kids WB.
Gosh dang it, James. You're supposed to be awake.
Huh?
You have to read the Patreon names.
What? Patreon? No, Maddie was doing that this week.
Don't you remember last night you decided to make an entire new video for Sunday instead of the one that you already have finished?
Why would I do that?
I don't know.
Okay, well, thank you to Daniel Chan for becoming a new patron. And thank you to Alex Lawrence, whoever you are, and Eleanor. Those are all the brand new people. People who upped their pledge include Dark Poet 1792, the great Robert Sterling, West Isle Defense Force, that has a C,
In defense, is that like because you're in a different country where they spell it that way, or did you spell it wrong? I've been wondering that for a while. And everyone's favorite, Mark Thundercrock. And of course, all the names that we say every time: Cameo Shadowness, Luke Mears, Richard Mon 12, and Daniel Chan, Robert Sterling, Dark Poet 1790. I already said your names, so you don't get them said twice. Shit. If you'd like to become a patron of the Watchtower Database, you can go to patreon.com/DCAU Watchtower. There's cool stuff there. Group video chats. I'll draw you something. There's lots of other stuff. You can watch our videos like a day early sometimes. Probably not this one. Alright, that's it. Can you please get out of here?
Okay.
Go back to sleep.
Alright.
Can you turn the light off?
I was gonna.
Okay, thanks.
Bye.
God damn.
Now back to the new Batman-Superman adventures on Kids WB.
Back to the robot. The DC solicitation for this issue says that it's breaking into Star Labs, but on the side of the building here it reads Wayne Tech. We've seen the Gotham City Star Labs before, first alluded to in the BTAS episode Nothing to Fear, then seen for the first time in Gotham Adventures number 30, but we finally got a good look at it in the opening of the Batman and Harley Quinn movie, where the lab seems to have moved locations. So it's not impossible this is a division of Star Labs, perhaps absorbed and now owned by Wayne Tech, but I'm just gonna guess that the solicitation is a bit off. There's a bit more of a reason why in a minute. On page 9, we get a glimpse of two scientists who look kind of like the ones from JLU's The Greatest Story Never Told, but Dr. Brown and Dr. Simmons worked at the Star Labs in Metropolis. So this probably isn't them. Page 10 is now a meme, and that's fantastic. Page 11, my only comment is that Batman apparently can now multiply himself without needing to use that Jason Blood spell. Is this a hint we'll be getting a 3 Batmans miniseries soon? Oh, and Batman is using a new Batman Adventures Batarang, but a Batman the Animated Series grapnel gun? What the heck? I guess it does go along with Bruce Timm's explanation from the 2017 Batman and Harley Quinn WonderCon panel.
Well, because I figured he's still got all of those vehicles in his massive bat cave. And so he never throws anything away. He's very, very organized.
I'll let it slide this time, Templeton. Wait, next page the Batarangs are just shaped like his symbol now? They do appear to be explosive Batarangs, but those usually just look the same but with little blinky lights in the middle. Wait, why is the sky red now? What is going on? It stays red on page 13 too. Is the sky less clear now? Is it for dramatic effect? Is it only red after 10 p.m.? Batman Matrix dodges a semi and ends the page pretty much realizing he's no match for this robot. Not even his inexplicably bat symbol shaped Batarangs can stop it. We'll come back to this page in a bit. A lot of stuff to talk about with this issue, and a lot of it wraps back around on itself for discussion purposes, so hold your bat horses. Page 14, we get a pretty cool look at a map of Gotham City, which we see more of in the inks for this page. The map itself originates from the mainstream comics No Man's Land arc in 1999, and was featured in Batman: Gotham City: Secret Files & Origins in 2000. We've never seen this detailed a map of Gotham City in the DCAU before. The best looks we've ever really gotten are this projection in The Cat and the Claw, this physical map of a city chunk in Sub-Zero, and a not very helpful aerial view in Avatar, the BTAS episode Not the Last Airbender or the Blue People. While this No Man's Land map is of course based off the comic book Gotham City, which resides in New Jersey, we know our Gotham in the DCAU is in New York, based on a couple random bits from Batman episodes. So since this map is now basically DCAU canon, the part we get to see has some interesting areas of note, such as Robinson Park, which is most likely named after Joker and Alfred co-creator Jerry Robinson, and has appeared in a few of the recent DCAU-inspired Capstone Kids books, as well as... Wait, it was in The Call? I don't remember that. Oh, maybe the opening where Batman chases Ink to a park? Let me take a look. It says Gotham Biopark right there. That's not Robinson Park.
Why is everyone so stupid?
Then there's Old Gotham, which is typically comprised of, well, the oldest buildings in Gotham. In Batman Beyond, there's an area of the city called Old Town, where Crime Alley and the OG Police HQ are, which is first seen in the episode Shriek, and then referred to by name in Eyewitness. Now, the names of a few places that would normally be seen are cut off by the edges of the Bat computer, but we still see the arrow? What are these called? Call-outs? Whatever, the lines that connect from the word to the map. You can still see some of those, like the one for the clock tower, which is typically the headquarters of the Birds of Prey. Check out our video on how the Birds of Prey almost happened in the DCAU. But also maybe the big clock tower from the episode The Clock King. And another for Helena Bertinelli's apartment, Huntress, which, if still applicable, is pretty fun. Now we know where she hangs her cape? She doesn't have a hat. Well, the Question does. Now we know where she hangs the Question's hat. Alfred mentions the Costa Nostra, which my uneducated ass thought was maybe like a tropical island or something. But after Googling it, the closest thing I could find was the Cosa Nostra, the mafia-esque 5 families of Gotham in the comics, and also just plain the Sicilian mafia in real life. So is Costa just a typo? Lex was town after all. And hey look, the suit is blue! We knew it wasn't black. Blue was the likely answer, but who would have guessed it was merino wool and cashmere with a subtle blue stripe? Then again, did Bruce even wear that suit to the party? Way to not go with Alfred's recommendation. That's basically your dad, dude. But speaking of blue, the sky is back to that color now. So it looks like I've got a Gotham City sky conundrum video on the to-do list. Bruce tells Veronica Vreeland that he's not the marrying kind, except when they're irresistible plant ladies, right, Bruce? Veronica holds up 3 fingers when asking how many times Bruce has adopted a kid. Up until this point, we've only known about Dick Grayson and Tim Drake, the 2 Robins of the DCAU. But in the comics, as you probably know, Jason Todd, you know, that mysterious fellow from a few pages back, was actually Robin between those other guys. So circling back to that shadow shape on his face, Jason did wind up being revealed as wearing a Robin-like domino mask under his red hood. See what I did there? I'm not proud of that. In the Batman title in the early 2000s. So my assumption about the shadow shape being a red herring is paired with Veronica Vreeland's guess about Bruce having adopted 3 kids instead of the 2 we already know about. Dini and Burnett want you to think Jason was a Robin between Dick and Tim. I think it's all to mislead you, and then we'll have a completely different origin for Jason than we're used to. But I guess we'll have to wait and see. For more timeline clues, Bruce does say Tim has been with him for a while, which could lead one to assume this may be years after the new Batman adventures, which is possible, considering some of the TNBA era does eke into the time period from the opening Batman and Superman scene of the Justice League debut episode Secret Origins, which is set 6 months prior to the remainder of the episode. But this same a while description of Tim time came up in the episode Growing Pains, when Tim complains about being treated like a kid. And that episode still likely takes place within a year or a few months of when Tim became Robin in the first place. So it's all pretty speculative still. And remember those Bane and Penguin subtleties from earlier. I wonder how old Jason is here though. He does say, "I forgot how much fun Gotham can be." That's my Jensen Ackles impression, I guess. Actually, you want to hear my actual Jensen Ackles impression? Sam! And my Jared Padalecki. Dean! Anyway, it seems he's been out of Lex town for a while. He appears to be at least high school aged, if not early college, a la Dick Grayson in Batman the Animated Series. But then again, Tim Drake himself proves that character designs and ages don't necessarily mix well. He does know Batman is Bruce Wayne, as evidenced by his "it looks like this is gonna get personal" line when the maybe Star Labs or Wayne Tech I don't know break-in happens. It's probably too much of a stretch to assume this Jason Todd could be from an alternate universe, even though we know the Batman Who Laughs and probably Flashpoint Batman will be a part of this comic later. But damn if it wouldn't make it easier to explain his appearance altogether. While we don't see it here, the Jason action figure has a little white streak in his hair. Originally, us bad at remembering non-DCAU comics boys attributed this to Jason's resurrection via the Lazarus pits that brought him back for Under the Hood. But no, there's no white streak here. The white streak actually comes from Batman Hush when Jason was impersonated by Clayface, mildly inaccurately. Thanks to one of our Patreon supporters, Tomato is JP, for pointing this out. So is this Jason actually Clayface? Wouldn't explain why he knows Batman and Bruce are the same person, or why he seems to have been gone from Gotham for a while, but it does potentially connect to how we know Annie, aka that girl who's actually part of Clayface, is going to appear in a future issue. Not to mention, Hush is slated for the toy line, so it's not impossible he'll also wind up in the comic. But hashtag Jason speculation over for now. Let's get back to business.
We'll return with more of the Caped Crusader, the Batman, on Cartoon Network. Evildoers, you can't escape the Batman. He's back.
Interviews with the creative team prior to the comic's release pointed to it being a sequel of sorts to the Batman-Superman crossover event World's Finest, which makes sense considering good old Lex Luthor shows up at this party on page 16, with an established familiarity with Bruce Wayne, having worked together with him in that episode arc, or movie, whatever you want to call it. Veronica is also familiar with Lex, not as a maniacal supervillain, but as the notorious mastermind of Metropolis. And since Lex is business suited up for an evening soiree, this seems to point to the comic taking place before, well...
So much for your image as the benevolent businessman. This is the end of an era.
And since that era stayed ended until the JL episode A Better World, I'm gonna continue to guess this is prior to Justice League. Gee, I sure hope something doesn't come up later that messes that up. Veronica is pretty flirty with Lex as well, and while that might just be to get Bruce's attention, either way, Do we know how old her daughter is in the opening of Batman Beyond in 2019? If she's born after Justice League Unlimited, then she's 15 at the oldest, which doesn't seem right. If she's 20, she would have been born in 1999 during the new Batman adventures. So again, maybe not if Veronica's being this flirtatious. Could her dad be Lex Luthor? Wouldn't be the first time the DCAU-ish comics explored this concept. Maybe that's why she kept the Vreeland last name. Who would want to be named Bunny Luthor? Wait, I got it. Her dad is Captain Carrot. Only other thing I have to say about this page is long Bruce is long. Page 17, why is the sky red again? Lex mentions the last time he interacted with the Joker was in World's Finest, again pointing to this being before Justice League, and he seemingly harbors resentment for Gotham City because of all that. At least, that's how we've chosen to interpret this line, because I don't think Lex actually ever set foot in Gotham in that crossover. Joker and Batman came to Metropolis, but I digress. Bruce asking for Superman's phone number is pretty similar to this moment from World's Finest, though.
Listen, you seem awfully interested in Superman. Do you want me to fix you two up?
Sorry.
Lex mentioned Superman hasn't been around lately and had a big battle on the far side of the moon last week before disappearing. I looked around for an episode of the Superman cartoon where this happens, and maybe it could be the Promethean, but that was an asteroid, not the moon. Could this be referring to the event that led to his capture in the Superman cartoon's finale, Legacy? Supergirl mentions he's been gone for over a month in the start of that episode. But it could be an off-screen something or other that doesn't matter and isn't referring to anything we've already seen. But on the other hand, back to the robot. See? I brought it back around. There's something interesting back on page 13, and I gotta credit Yojimbo from the Anime Superhero message boards for pointing this out. Look at the way this thing is flying. Pretty reminiscent of a certain Man of Steel, wouldn't you say? And on the next page, Batman is even trying to figure out how it flies, noting it isn't jet propulsion or even heat generating at all. So, could Superman be inside this robot? My first assumption was, as we'll see in the end of this comic, since Lex is associated with the robot, he was controlling it. Kind of like how we see him remote piloting this Neon Genesis Evangelion dude in the Justice League episode Legends. But what if that's why Superman is missing? Lex conked him in the head with some kryptonite, stuck him in a robot, and said, "Do what I say or we're watching Brainiac attacks again." This could even explain why Bruce needs the Dark Knight Returns looking armor in a later issue. How else you gonna fight a Superman-controlled giant robot? My only other theory with the whole flying thing is maybe it's Brainiac technology? We see in inks from likely the very next part of this issue that Lex has a partially constructed Brainiac head in his possession. In the animated series, Brainiac took control of LexCorp's computers and forced Lex to rebuild him in the episode Ghost in the Machine, which we come to find out in JLU was also an event in which Brainiac uploaded himself inside of Lex's body, where he lived, subtly influencing the man's actions for years. There's also the fact that Brainiac got into the Wayne computers by the Superman episode Nighttime, after the two companies' collaboration in World's Finest, which connects us back to Wayne Tech. So whether or not this is the reason Lex is seemingly building another Brainiac in a post-TNBA, pre-JL world, using Brainiac tech could explain the robot's flight capabilities. But Batman does say he doesn't think it's extraterrestrial, and it kind of feels like the thing the robot stole was this Brainiac head, as Batman says the vault's contents were alien hardware given to him by Superman. So I don't know. Now nearing the end of the comic, Bruce calls Clark on page 19 with a normal telephone, not Justice League comlinks. He doesn't pick up, so if the legacy theory holds true, Supergirl hasn't filled in for him yet. Either that or she's just too busy pretending to eat hot dogs. Why is the Batmobile just sitting in the middle of the floor instead of on its Coolio turntable pedestal thingy? On page 20, we get Claremont Airfield, potentially named after Chris Claremont, who created DC's Sovereign 7 and worked on the Batman, JLA, and Superman Wonder Woman titles in the 90s, though probably best known for his almost 20-year run on Uncanny X-Men. The setting here is almost exactly like what we see of Gotham Airport in the TNBA episode Sins of the Father, though it's not a 100% match. Same thing with the opening of Rebirth, but again, not quite the same. This thug looks kind of familiar. Why do all these background extras only look kind of familiar? I used to be able to look at somebody and be like, ah yeah, from the grocery store in Initiation. Am I losing my touch? I do feel bad for him though, because Batman's boots apparently smell so bad they just knock him out. Seriously, smell my boot. Next page, we don't really get anything. Oh my god, Lex is wearing his exosuit from Justice League. I wonder how hard I can bash my head on this table without the microphone falling off. How is this even possible? Didn't Ultra Humanite make this for Lex in Injustice for All?
Lex Luthor's in his battle suit that he doesn't normally get until Justice League Unlimited. What the heck's going on? How does he have this suit?
Well, you know, could be a prototype.
Oh!
Okay, fine. I can concede that it's an earlier version of the Justice League suit, even if it looks exactly the same, and Ultra Humanite knew right where its weakness was, and it definitely looked like he created the chest plate. Maybe Humanite only augmented the chest plate to slow Lex's cancer. Lex does get the full suit off screen. Maybe, you know,
it's something I've kept in cold storage.
So it could maybe now be a retcon that it did exist prior to JL, and we just never saw it. And lastly, I bet the vault combination is 91939.
They're the numbers I use.
In conclusion, I think this is a pretty strong start to the series, at least in terms of fan service style offerings to the DCAU crowd. The story is perhaps a little bit rushed as far as we've seen so far, but I'll assume that's because they're trying to cram so much new stuff into this. It'll be a delicate balance between returning to the BTAS world and telling a new story. But I've trusted Dini, Burnett, and Templeton with my Batman for 28 years, so I think I can continue to trust them just fine. As far as the art goes, it's pretty spectacular. While making this video, I keep looking back and forth between this and the stuff the same team was doing in the 90s, and there's just no comparison. It's clean, it's vibrant, it's refreshing, in no small part thanks to Monica Kubina's beautiful coloring work. It's okay, Monica. The sky can be what it wants to be. Throughout the comic, Batman is pretty dang on model to his TMBA character design. There's times though where he tends to creep more toward the BTAS look in his face, with the cheek lines and overall shape of the cowl. Yeah, I'm being picky because I draw Batman all the time. Not professionally like Ty Templeton, but you know. I'm definitely looking forward to the rest of the comic no matter what. It's the DC animated universe. You can't not love it. Well, most of it. There's also a rumor floating around out there that Paul Dini hasn't watched all of Justice League Unlimited, which seems untrue since he wrote an episode of it and it's like his universe. But if true, I wonder how much of the expanded world we'll see come into play other than stuff from this direct time period. Whatever that means. And regardless of what's going on with Superman, Jason Todd, Lex's suit, I just really hope Paul or Alan or Ty or all of the above are watching this video and smirking about how dumb all our predictions are. Or correct? Next week we'll be doing a video on all the stuff you should check out to prepare yourself for reading Batman The Adventures Continue, based on what we know so far is coming up. That's past DCAU comics and episodes with plot connections, mainstream DC stories that involve the new characters, and even just some great past work by the creators of this new comic that will remind you why these people are so good at what they do. So be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss that, and every other video we have coming up every Sunday. Thanks for watching this video, and we'll see you next week.
With me, Owen Likes Comics.
Who said that?